The warship Celestial Dawn moved through the darkness of space like a predator stalking its prey. Inside the massive vessel, hundreds of beings from across the galaxy worked together to keep the ship running. Captain Zekthar stood on the bridge with his forearms crossed behind his back. His scaled skin reflected the blue light from the control panels. He watched the stars slide past the view screen and thought about the war. The Crithian swarm had been pushing deeper into Coalition territory for 3 months now. Every week brought news of another colony lost or another fleet destroyed. The swarm moved like a plague across the stars, consuming everything in its path. Zekthar had lost many good soldiers in the fighting. He needed warriors who could turn the tide. That morning he had received word of a new transfer, a human from Earth. Zekthar knew little about Earth, except that it was a newly contacted world on the far edge of Coalition space. The planet had only been discovered 5 years ago when a human ship appeared near a Coalition station. Since then, a handful of humans had joined the military. Most served in support roles. Few had seen real combat. The bridge door opened with a soft hiss. Zekthar turned to see the new arrival. His eyes widened despite his attempt to remain professional. The human woman who entered was unlike any being he had seen before. She stood tall and lean with a grace that reminded him of the hunting cats from his homeworld. Her skin was pale like moonlight. Her hair fell in dark waves past her shoulders. But it was her ears that caught his attention first. They swept up to delicate points. Her eyes were the color of deep forest leaves, and they seemed to see everything at once. Behind her walked something that made every crew member on the bridge stop and stare. A creature covered in dark red scales padded alongside the woman on 4 legs. Wings lay folded against its back. Smoke drifted from its nostrils. It was the size of a large dog, but something about it suggested it could be much larger if it chose. The woman stopped in front of Zekthar and gave a crisp salute. She told him her name was Maya Thornwood and that she was reporting for duty as ordered. Her voice was quiet, but carried an edge like a blade wrapped in silk. Zekthar returned the salute and asked about the creature beside her. Maya looked down at the scaled beast and said its name was Ember. She explained that Ember was her companion and had been with her since birth. The captain asked if it was safe to have such an animal aboard a military vessel. Maya assured him that Ember was perfectly trained and would cause no problems. The other crew members watched the exchange with obvious curiosity. Lieutenant Luna Park stood at the engineering station. She was human like Maya, but her appearance was completely different. Luna had dark hair cut short and cybernetic implants visible along her temples. She studied Maya with the analytical gaze of someone who loved solving puzzles. Next to her stood Claire Rodriguez at the weapons console. Claire was also human with brown skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Both women seemed uncertain about their new crewmate. Zekthar assigned Maya to the combat division and dismissed her to settle into her quarters. Maya saluted again and turned to leave. Ember followed at her heel with movements that were too smooth and too intelligent for a simple animal. The bridge fell silent after they left. Luna turned to Claire and spoke quietly. She said there was something strange about the new transfer. Claire agreed. She had been watching Ember and noticed the creature never took its eyes off the crew. It watched them the way a soldier watches potential threats. Over the next few days, Maya kept mostly to herself. She reported for her shifts on time and performed her duties without complaint, but she rarely spoke beyond what was necessary. During meals, she sat alone in the corner of the mess hall with Ember curled at her feet. Other crew members tried to engage her in conversation, but she deflected their questions with polite but firm responses. The crew noticed other things about Maya. She moved through the corridors with absolute silence. More than once, someone rounded a corner and nearly ran into her because they had not heard her approach. Her reflexes were impossibly fast. When a junior officer accidentally dropped a data pad, Maya caught it before it hit the ground, even though she had been looking the other way. Ember was equally unsettling. The creature seemed to understand human speech. When Maya told Ember to stay, the creature remained perfectly still. When she said to follow, Ember walked at her side. But no one ever saw Maya give commands. The dragon simply knew what she wanted. Medical Officer Kate Brennan requested that Maya report for a standard physical examination. Maya arrived at the medical bay right on time with Ember padding behind her. Kate was a human woman with red hair tied back in a practical bun. She had gentle hands and a sharp mind. She asked Maya to sit on the examination table. Kate ran the standard scans and frowned at the results. She ran them again. The readings made no sense. Maya's bone density was far higher than any human Kate had examined. Her muscle fibers showed a structure Kate had never seen before. Her nervous system processed information at speeds that should not be possible. Kate asked Maya if she had received any genetic modifications. Maya said she had not. She explained that she was simply from a different region of Earth than most humans in the Coalition. Kate wanted to know more, but Maya politely declined to provide details. She said her medical records were in her file and that everything was approved by Coalition Command. Kate checked the records and found that Maya was correct. Someone high up in the command structure had cleared her for service. Still, Kate made notes to follow up later. In the training rooms, Maya demonstrated abilities that left the combat instructors speechless. She could run faster than any human they had seen. She could leap higher. Her hand-to-hand combat skills were flawless. When paired against the best fighters on the ship, she defeated them with ease. She never boasted or showed pride in her victories. She simply bowed to her opponents and thanked them for the practice. Ember watched every training session with those intelligent eyes. Sometimes the dragon made soft, rumbling sounds that felt like speech, even though no words emerged. The crew members who spent time near Ember reported feeling watched in a way that went beyond normal animal awareness. Captain Zekthar called Maya to his office one evening. He wanted to understand his new soldier better. Maya entered and stood at attention. Zekthar gestured for her to sit, but she remained standing. He asked her directly about her background. He wanted to know where she had learned to fight. He wanted to know what exactly Ember was. He wanted to know why Earth had sent someone like her to his ship. Maya met his gaze without flinching. She told him that Earth was not like other Coalition worlds. She said her planet was harsh and that its people had learned to be strong in order to survive. She said Ember was a dragon and that her people had bonded with dragons long ago. She said she was here because the Coalition needed soldiers who understood how to fight against impossible odds. Zekthar asked if she was ready for real combat. Maya said she had been ready since the day she was born. The captain studied her for a long moment. He saw no fear in her eyes, no doubt, only a calm certainty that reminded him of the oldest warriors he had known. He dismissed her with orders to be ready for deployment at any time. That night, the crew gathered in the mess hall as they often did during the quiet hours. Luna and Claire sat together discussing the war. They talked about the latest reports from the front lines. Amy Chen, the ship pilot, joined them. Amy was a human woman with black hair and a quick smile. She said she had heard rumors about Maya. Claire asked what kind of rumors. Amy leaned in and spoke quietly. She said the other human transfers in the fleet had been talking. They said Maya was not from any normal part of Earth. They said she came from the wild places where ancient things still lived. They said her people were not quite human in the way most people understood the word. Luna dismissed this as speculation, but Amy insisted she had heard it from reliable sources. She said Earth was more complicated than anyone realized. She said the planet had been classified as something called a death world by early galactic scouts. She said that was why Earth had been quarantined for so long. Before they could discuss it further, Maya entered the mess hall. The conversation stopped. She moved to her usual corner table with Ember following close behind. The dragon lay down and rested its head on its front claws. Maya ate in silence. The other crew members watched her from the corners of their eyes. Claire stood up suddenly. She walked over to Maya's table and asked if she could join her. Maya looked up surprised. She gestured to the empty seat. Claire sat down and introduced herself properly. She said she was curious about Earth and wondered if Maya would tell her about her homeworld. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke softly. She said Earth was beautiful and terrible in equal measure. She said it was a world of extremes, where the strong survived and the weak did not. She said her people had learned hard lessons over countless generations. She said those lessons made them what they were today. Claire asked about Ember. Maya reached down and stroked the dragon-scaled head. She said Ember was her partner and her family. She said dragons chose their riders, and that once bonded, they were never apart. She said the bond ran deeper than friendship or loyalty. It was something written into their very souls. Before Claire could ask more questions, the alert sirens began to wail throughout the ship. The alarm cut through the quiet of the mess hall like a blade. Red lights flashed along the walls. Maya was on her feet before the first siren note faded. Ember rose beside her with smoke curling from the dragon nostrils. Claire jumped up and ran for the weapons station. Luna sprinted toward engineering. The entire crew moved with practiced efficiency toward their battle stations. Captain Zekthar's voice came over the ship communication system. He announced that 3 Crithian vessels had appeared on their sensors. The enemy ships were closing fast. All hands were ordered to combat readiness. Maya ran through the corridors with Ember keeping pace beside her. Other crew members moved aside as the dragon passed. The creature had grown larger. It was now the size of a pony. Maya reached the armory and grabbed her equipment. She strapped a combat harness across her chest. A strange blade hung at her hip in a worn leather sheath. The weapon hummed softly, with an energy the other soldiers could feel but not see. She checked her gear with quick, efficient movements. Around her, other combat troops prepared their weapons. They were a mix of species from across the galaxy. Insectoid warriors with chitinous armor, crystalline beings that refracted light in dizzying patterns. Gaseous entities contained in environmental suits. A massive explosion rocked the ship. The deck tilted and crew members grabbed for handholds. The lights flickered. Maya remained perfectly balanced, as if the ship movement meant nothing to her. Ember spread wings to maintain stability. The dragon had grown again. It now filled much of the armory space. The combat coordinator, Sergeant Vorn, called out assignments. Vorn was a 4-armed being covered in thick gray hide. He had served in the coalition military for 20 years. He assigned teams to defend key areas of the ship. He looked at Maya with uncertainty. He asked if she was ready for live combat. Maya simply nodded. Another impact shook the celestial dawn. This time, the sound of tearing metal echoed through the hull. The coordinator announced that the Crithians had launched boarding pods. The enemy would breach the ship within minutes. All combat teams were ordered to defensive positions. Maya moved toward the nearest breach point. Ember followed with claws clicking on the metal deck. Other soldiers fell in behind them. They reached a corridor junction just as the wall exploded inward. Metal screamed and twisted. Atmosphere vented into space until emergency fields sealed the breach. Through the hole came the Crithians. The enemy warriors were nightmare creatures. They stood on multiple legs with bodies covered in black chitinous plates. Razor-sharp claws extended from each limb. Their heads were dominated by mandibles that dripped with venom. They moved with terrible speed and coordination. The Crithians were a hive species. Each warrior was controlled by a shared mind that made them fight as one. The coalition soldiers opened fire. Energy beams lit up the corridor. The Crithians charged forward, heedless of casualties. For every one that fell, 2 more pushed through the breach. The creatures shrieked with voices that hurt the ears. They crashed into the defensive line like a wave. Maya drew her blade. The weapon blazed with blue-white light. She stepped forward into the enemy charge. What happened next would be talked about in the ship mess halls for months to come. Maya moved like water flowing around stones. A Crithian lunged at her with claws extended. She slid beneath the attack, and her blade carved through the creature chitinous armor as if it were paper. The Crithian fell in 2 pieces. Another enemy warrior attacked from her left. Maya spun and her blade took its head. A third creature tried to impale her from behind. She dropped flat and rolled. Her blade swept out in a circle and removed all of the Crithian legs. Ember entered the fight with a roar that shook the corridor. The dragon had grown to the size of a horse. Its wings spread wide, blocking the entire hallway. Ember opened its jaws and breathed fire. The flames were white-hot, and they turned the lead Crithian warriors to ash. The dragon charged forward using claws and teeth and tail. Crithians tried to swarm the creature, but Ember was too fast. The dragon moved with the same impossible grace as Maya. The other coalition soldiers could only stare. They had trained for combat. They had fought in battles before, but they had never seen anything like this. Maya fought as if the battle was a dance she had practiced for a lifetime. Every movement had purpose. Every strike killed. She wasted no motion. Her blade sang through the air, leaving trails of light. Luna had been forced to abandon her engineering post. She grabbed a rifle and ran to support the defensive line. She arrived just in time to see Maya kill 5 Crithians in as many seconds. Luna watched as Maya leaped over an enemy warrior, used the corridor wall to redirect her momentum, and brought her blade down through another Crithian from above. It should not have been possible. Human bodies could not move that way. Human bones could not handle those forces. But Maya was not struggling. She was not even breathing hard. She looked calm, focused, like a hunter who had cornered her prey. Ember roared again and released another gout of flame. The fire melted through Crithian armor and the metal walls behind them. The heat was so intense that the other soldiers had to back away. But Maya walked through the flames untouched. She and her dragon fought as one being. When Maya went high, Ember went low. When Maya drew enemies in Ember drove them back. They had fought together before. That much was obvious. The Crithian advance faltered. The hive mind seemed confused. These warriors were used to overwhelming opponents with numbers, but the numbers were not working here. The Deathworlder and her dragon were cutting through them like they were nothing. Maya called out to the other soldiers. She told them to fall back to the next junction. She said she and Ember would hold the corridor. The soldiers hesitated. It seemed like suicide to leave 2 people against dozens of enemies. But Sergeant Vorn ordered the retreat. The troops pulled back while Maya and Ember formed a wall of blade and fire. A massive Crithian warrior pushed through the breach. It was twice the size of the others with thicker armor and longer claws. This was a hive captain. The creature fixed its attention on Maya and charged. Maya met the charge head-on. Her blade clashed against the Crithian claws. Sparks flew. The force of impact would have crushed a normal human. Maya slid backward but kept her feet. She struck again and again. Her blade found gaps in the armor. Green ichor sprayed across the walls. Ember attacked from the side. The dragon jaws closed on the hive captain neck. The Crithian tried to shake free, but Ember held firm. Maya saw her opening. She drove her blade up under the creature jaw and into its brain. The hive captain collapsed. Its death sent a psychic shockwave through the other Crithians. They scattered. Maya and Ember pursued them back to the breach. The dragon breathed fire into the boarding pod. Screams echoed from within. Maya sealed the emergency bulkheads and cut off the enemy access. The corridor fell silent except for the sound of cooling metal and dying flames. Maya stood among the bodies of her enemies. Her blade still glowed with inner light. Ember had returned to the size of a large dog. The dragon licked blood from its claws. Maya cleaned her blade on a fallen Crithian and sheathed the weapon. Then she turned and walked back toward where the other soldiers waited. The troops stared at her as she approached. Some looked awed, Others looked frightened. Luna stepped forward. She asked Maya if she was hurt. Maya shook her head. She said she was fine. She asked if there were other breach points that needed defending. Sergeant Vorn checked his communication device. He said the other teams had repelled the borders. The Crithian ships were retreating. The Celestial Dawn had taken damage but was still battle-capable. They had won. The soldiers began to cheer. They had survived. They had driven back the swarm, but their celebration felt muted as they looked at the corridor full of dead Crithians, as they looked at the human woman who had killed so many, as they looked at the dragon that should not exist. Captain Zekthar arrived with a damage control team. He surveyed the scene with all 4 eyes wide. He counted the bodies. More than 30 Crithian warriors dead. He looked at Maya. He asked if she had done this. Maya said she and Ember had defended the corridor as ordered. The captain asked if she needed medical attention. Maya said she did not. Zekthar ordered everyone back to their stations. The ship needed repairs. They needed to assess casualties. They needed to report to Coalition Command. But as the crew dispersed, he pulled Maya aside. He told her that what she had done was remarkable. He said he had never seen anyone fight like that. He asked where she had learned such skills. Maya met his gaze. She said she learned to fight on Earth. She said her world taught harsh lessons. The captain asked what kind of world produces warriors like her. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke words that would echo through the ship for days to come. She said Earth was not like other worlds. She said it was a place where survival meant becoming stronger than your enemies. She said it was a place where death waited around every corner and only the prepared lived to see another day. The captain asked what the galaxy called such a world. Maya smiled, but there was no humor in it. She said the galaxy called it a death world. She said Earth was classified as one of the most dangerous planets ever discovered. She said that was why her people were the way they were. They were not born warriors. They were forged into warriors by a world that accepted nothing less. Zekthar did not know what to say. He simply nodded and dismissed her. Maya walked away with Ember at her side. The dragon smoke trailed behind them like a dark promise. The week after the battle passed in a strange tension. The Celestial Dawn limped to Coalition Station Proxima for repairs. The station was a massive structure that floated in the void between star systems. Thousands of ships docked there every day. Supply vessels, warships, refugee transports. The war had turned Proxima into a hub of desperate activity. The crew of the Celestial Dawn had liberty while engineers worked on the ship. Most headed to the station bars and recreation centers. They needed to forget about the war for a while. But word of what happened during the Crithian attack had spread. Other crews wanted to meet the Deathworlder and her dragon. Maya tried to avoid attention. She found a quiet corner of the station arboretum where she could sit with Ember among growing things. The arboretum held plants from 100 different worlds, trees with silver leaves, flowers that sang in ultrasonic frequencies, vines that moved toward sunlight like reaching hands. Maya sat beneath a massive tree from her homeworld. Oak. The tree reminded her of the forests she had left behind. Ember curled up at the base of the tree. The dragon seemed content to sleep in the filtered light. Maya leaned against the trunk and closed her eyes. For a moment she could pretend she was back on Earth. Back in the ancient woods where her people had lived for thousands of years. But the moment did not last. Luna found her. The engineer had been searching the station for an hour. She sat down beside Maya without asking permission. Claire and Amy were right behind her. The 3 human women formed a semicircle around their mysterious crewmate. Luna spoke first. She said the whole ship was talking about the battle. She said people were scared of Maya. She said people were also in awe. She asked Maya to help them understand. She asked Maya to tell them about Earth. Maya opened her eyes. She looked at the 3 women. They were human like her. But they were also different. They came from the cities and the plains. They came from the parts of Earth that had embraced technology and space travel. They did not come from the old places, the wild places, the places where magic still lingered in the roots of ancient trees. Amy said they deserved to know who they were serving with. Claire agreed. She said trust only worked when people were honest with each other. Maya considered their words. Then she nodded. She said she would tell them about Earth, but she warned them that they might not like what they heard. The three women settled in to listen. Other crew members had noticed the gathering. They drifted closer, trying not to be obvious. Soon, a small crowd had formed around the oak tree. Aliens of every description sat on the ground, or floated in the air, or settled onto benches. They all wanted to hear. Maya began to speak. She told them that Earth was a world of contradictions. She said it was beautiful beyond measure. She described oceans that stretched to the horizon, mountains that pierced the clouds, deserts that burned under twin suns. Wait, Earth only had one sun. Maya corrected herself. She said it felt like twin suns when you stood in the desert heat. But beauty came with a price. Maya described the predators that hunted in her world forests. She spoke of bears that stood 3 times the height of a man. She spoke of great cats that could kill with a single bite. She spoke of wolves that hunted in packs with intelligence that rivaled some sentient species. She spoke of snakes whose venom could drop a human in seconds. She spoke of spiders whose webs could catch birds. She spoke of insects that swarmed in clouds and could strip flesh from bone. The alien listeners shifted uncomfortably. Some made gestures of disbelief. Their worlds had dangerous animals, too. But not like this. Not so many. Not so varied. Maya continued. She described Earth weather. She told them about hurricanes that tore buildings from foundations, tornadoes that lifted entire structures into the sky, blizzards that could freeze a person solid in minutes, heat waves that killed thousands. She spoke of earthquakes that split the ground, volcanic eruptions that buried cities, tsunamis that swallowed coastlines. Luna interrupted. She asked how anyone survived on such a planet. Maya smiled. She said humans were adaptable. She said humans learned to build stronger, to prepare better, to work together. But she admitted that many did not survive. She said Earth history was written in the bones of those who failed to adapt. The crowd had grown larger. More crew members arrived. Word had spread that the Deathworlder was finally talking. Maya saw the hunger in their eyes, the need to understand. So she kept speaking. She told them about human history. She spoke of wars that lasted generations. She spoke of empires that rose and fell. She spoke of weapons that could destroy entire cities in heartbeats. She spoke of diseases that wiped out millions. She spoke of famines and genocides and horrors that humans inflicted on each other. She did not flinch from the truth. She said humans were not naturally good. They were survivors, and survivors did terrible things when pushed to the edge. Claire asked why humans fought each other so much. Maya said it was because resources were limited. Territory was precious. Different groups believed different things. She said conflict was woven into human nature, but she also said cooperation was equally strong. She said humans formed bonds, built communities, sacrificed for each other. She said the same species that waged war also created art and music and stories that celebrated life. Then Maya dropped the biggest revelation. She said humans were not one species. The crowd erupted in confused chatter. Maya waited for quiet. She explained that Earth had multiple intelligent races. There were standard humans who made up the majority. But there were also elves who lived in the forests, dwarves who carved kingdoms under mountains, other races that preferred to remain hidden from the wider world. Amy asked how that was possible. Maya said it was a result of divergent evolution over hundreds of thousands of years. She said Earth had many isolated environments. Groups of early humans became trapped in different regions. They adapted to their surroundings. Some changes were small, others were significant. By the time the groups reconnected, they had become distinct subspecies. Luna wanted to know about the dragons. Ember raised its head at the word. The dragon eyes reflected the arboretum lights like coins of molten gold. Maya said dragons were Earth apex predators. She said they had ruled the skies for millions of years. She said early humans hunted them, killed them, drove them to near extinction. But some humans chose a different path. Some humans learned to communicate with dragons, to bond with them. Maya stroked Ember-scaled head. She said the bond was ancient, older than recorded history. She said certain bloodlines carried the ability to connect with dragons on a level beyond words. She said once bonded a dragon and rider were partners for life. They shared thoughts, emotions. They fought as one because they were one in every way that mattered. The crowd was silent now. They were beginning to understand. This woman was not just a skilled fighter. She was something forged by a world that did not allow weakness. She was the product of millions of years of brutal natural selection. Captain Zekthar had joined the crowd without Maya noticing. He asked a question that made everyone lean forward. He asked why Earth had been quarantined. Why had the galaxy kept humans isolated for so long? Maya took a deep breath. She said early galactic scouts discovered Earth thousands of years ago. They scanned the planet from orbit. They detected intelligent life. They sent probes to observe. What they saw horrified them. They saw a world where everything was trying to kill everything else. They saw humans fighting wars with primitive weapons. They saw dragons burning forests. They saw predators that would give coalition marines nightmares. The scouts classified Earth as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating. They placed it under quarantine. They forbade contact. They posted warning beacons in nearby systems. The reasoning was simple. Any species that evolved on such a world would be too dangerous to join galactic society. They would bring their violence with them. They would destabilize the peace. But humans did not stay quarantined. Maya said her people had always been curious, always pushing boundaries. A group of human engineers found a crashed alien probe. They reverse-engineered the technology. They built their own ships. They flew past the warning beacons and made contact with a coalition station. By the time the galaxy realized what happened, it was too late. Humans were already spreading. Claire asked if the galaxy had tried to send humans back. Maya said they tried. There were debates in the Coalition Council. Some species wanted Earth placed under permanent lockdown. But humans had advocates too. Some council members argued that humanity deserved a chance. They said humans showed potential. They were intelligent, innovative. They had survived conditions that would destroy most species, that made them valuable allies. A compromise was reached. Earth would be allowed limited participation in galactic affairs. Humans could volunteer for coalition service, but there were restrictions. No unrestricted access to advanced weapons, no settlement of new worlds without approval, strict monitoring of human activities. The galaxy wanted to see if humans could be trusted before fully integrating them. Amy asked how Maya felt about that. Maya was quiet for a long moment. She said she understood the fear. She said humans were dangerous. She did not deny it. But she also said humans were more than their capacity for violence. She said they were poets and artists, scientists and explorers. They were parents who loved their children, friends who would die for each other. They were complex, like any species. Luna asked about the forests Maya mentioned. She asked where exactly Maya came from. Maya said she was from the Northern Territories, ancient woodlands that had never been fully settled, places where the old ways still held power. She said her people were elves who had lived in those forests since before human civilization began. She said they were guardians of wild places, keepers of old knowledge, and the dragons had chosen them. Maya said her bloodline had bonded with dragons for 200 generations. She said she was born knowing Ember would find her. When she was 7 years old, a dragon egg appeared at her family home. No one knew where it came from. Such things simply happened when the bond called. She raised Ember from a hatchling. They grew together, learned together, became inseparable. The crowd sat in stunned silence. This was beyond anything they had imagined. Captain Zekthar finally spoke. He said he had a new understanding of what it meant to be from Earth. He said he realized now why Maya fought the way she did. She was not enhanced. She was not modified. She was simply what her world made her, a survivor from the most dangerous planet in known space. Maya stood up. Ember rose beside her. She said she appreciated them listening. She said she knew it was hard to accept. But she wanted them to understand one thing. Earth had taught her people to survive, but the galaxy was teaching them something new. It was teaching them to live in peace with others, to build instead of destroy. She said that was a lesson worth learning. The alert came 3 days later. Coalition intelligence had detected a massive Crithian fleet gathering in the Vanguard Nebula. Analysis suggested the swarm was preparing for a major offensive. Every available ship was being called to defensive positions. The Celestial Dawn received orders to join the fleet within 12 hours. The crew rushed back from shore leave. Engineers completed repairs at record speed. Captain Zekthar called a command meeting in the war room. His senior officers gathered around a holographic display showing the tactical situation. The news was grim. The Crithian fleet numbered over 200 ships. The coalition could muster barely half that. The swarm had numerical superiority, and they were dug into defensive positions within the nebula. The ionized gas clouds would interfere with sensors and communications. It would be bloody close quarters fighting. Zekthar asked for suggestions. His tactical officer recommended a defensive stance, lure the Crithians out of the nebula and engage them in open space where coalition technology had advantages. But the science officer pointed out that would mean abandoning 3 colonies in the nebula. Millions of civilians would be left to the swarm. That was unacceptable. The meeting went in circles. Every strategy had fatal flaws. They were outnumbered and fighting on enemy terms. Luna spoke up from the engineering station. She said maybe they were thinking about this wrong. Maybe the solution was not to fight the fleet. Maybe it was to disable their ability to fight. Everyone turned to look at her. Luna brought up intelligence reports on Crithian command structures. The swarm was a hive mind species. Every ship, every warrior was controlled by a central consciousness. That consciousness resided in their command carriers. If they could take out the command carrier, the rest of the fleet would fall into disarray. The tactical officer dismissed the idea immediately. The command carrier would be at the center of the fleet, surrounded by hundreds of defenders. No ship could fight through that. No missile could penetrate that deep. It was impossible. Maya had been standing quietly in the corner. Now she stepped forward. She said it was not impossible. She said a small team could do what a fleet could not. She said they could infiltrate the command carrier and destroy it from within. The room fell silent. Zekthar asked how. Maya laid out her plan. A stealth shuttle could slip through the nebula using the gas clouds for cover. A small team could board the command carrier while the main fleets were engaged. They could fight their way to the central command node and plant explosives. The destruction of the hive mind would cripple the entire swarm fleet. The tactical officer said it was suicide. The team would never make it out alive. Maya met his eyes. She said she was aware of the risks. She said she was volunteering anyway. She said Ember would go with her. The dragon had proven effective against Crithians. She asked for 2 more volunteers, people who were willing to gamble their lives for a chance to end the battle quickly. Luna stood up. She said she would go. She was the best engineer on the ship. If anyone could bypass Crithian security systems, it was her. Claire rose next. She said they would need someone to watch their backs. She was the best shot in the combat division. Amy volunteered to pilot the stealth shuttle. She said she could fly through hell itself if needed. Zekthar looked at his officers. He saw determination in their faces. He knew this was their best chance, maybe their only chance. He authorized the mission. He gave them 6 hours to prepare. Maya spent those hours in meditation. She sat cross-legged in her quarters with Ember curled around her. She needed to center herself, to prepare mentally for what was coming. She knew the odds. She knew most infiltration missions ended in death for the infiltrators. But she also knew that warriors did not choose their battles based on odds. They chose based on necessity. Ember nuzzled against her. The dragon emotions flowed into Maya's mind. Determination, loyalty, fierce, protective love. Maya sent her own emotions back. Gratitude, pride, unshakable trust. They would face this together as they had faced everything. The team assembled in the shuttle bay. Amy ran pre-flight checks on a small stealth craft. The shuttle was designed for reconnaissance. It had minimal weapons but excellent electronic countermeasures and a hull coating that absorbed sensor scans. Luna loaded her engineering tools and hacking equipment. Claire checked her weapons: an energy rifle, plasma pistols, enough ammunition to fight a small war. Maya carried only her blade. She wore light armor that allowed full mobility. Ember had grown to combat size again. The dragon barely fit through the shuttle hatch. But once inside, Ember settled into the cargo space and became very still. Dragons could slow their metabolism when needed, conserve energy. Wait with inhuman patience. The Celestial Dawn jumped into the Vanguard Nebula with the rest of the Coalition fleet. The space around them erupted into chaos. Energy beams cut through the colorful gas clouds. Ships exploded in bursts of light. The Crithians swarmed forward. The Coalition line held, but barely. Amy launched the stealth shuttle during the confusion. She wove between friendly ships using their larger sensor signatures to mask her own. Once clear of the fleet, she dove into the thickest part of the nebula. The ionized gases lit up the view screen like rivers of fire. Amy flew by instinct. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. Luna monitored sensors. She called out Crithian patrol patterns. Amy adjusted course to avoid them. Once they nearly collided with a swarm destroyer, but Amy cut power and let momentum carry them past. The Crithian ship never noticed them. It took 2 hours to reach the command carrier. The massive vessel hung in space like a malevolent star. It was 10 times the size of any other ship in the swarm fleet. Organic-looking armor covered its hull. Weapon ports bristled along every surface. Smaller ships orbited it like moons around a planet. Amy brought the shuttle in underneath the carrier. She matched velocity and used magnetic clamps to attach to the hull. Luna activated her cutting torch. She began burning through the outer armor. The metal glowed orange, then white. It took 20 minutes to breach. When the hole was large enough, they slipped inside. The interior of the Crithian ship was like stepping into a nightmare. The corridors were organic. Walls pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. The air was thick and humid. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. Everything smelled of decay and something else, something that made human instincts scream danger. Ember led the way. The dragon could sense the Crithian hive mind like a psychic pressure. Ember guided them toward the source. Maya walked behind with her blade drawn. The weapon glowed brighter in this place, as if it sensed the evil around them. Claire brought up the rear with her rifle ready. Luna stayed in the middle working her scanner to map their route. They moved through the ship like ghosts. Twice they encountered Crithian workers. Maya killed them before they could raise an alarm. Her blade cut through chitin and flesh without sound. The bodies were dragged into side passages and hidden. But their luck could not hold forever. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a Crithian patrol. 10 warriors in full combat armor. For a heartbeat, Everyone froze. Then the Crithians shrieked and charged. Claire opened fire. Her rifle cut down 3 warriors before they crossed half the distance. Maya leaped forward. Her blade became a blur. She fought like she had during the boarding attack, faster than thought, more graceful than wind. Crithians fell around her. Ember roared and breathed fire. The corridor became an inferno. Crithians burned and died screaming. But their deaths sent an alert through the hive mind. The entire ship knew intruders were aboard. The alarm sounded, a deep throbbing pulse that vibrated through the walls. Luna yelled that they had to move. Maya agreed. Stealth was gone. Now it was a race. She told Amy to get back to the shuttle and be ready for immediate extraction. Amy hesitated but obeyed. She ran back the way they came. The remaining 3 pushed forward. Crithians poured from side passages. Claire fired continuously. Her rifle overheated. She switched to pistols. Luna threw demolition charges behind them. Explosions sealed corridors and bought them seconds. Ember had grown massive. The dragon filled the entire corridor. Nothing could get past those jaws and claws, and that terrible fire. Maya rode on Ember back now. She struck down at enemies who tried to climb the dragon's sides. They reached a massive chamber. The walls curved up into a dome. At the center floated something that hurt to look at, a pulsing mass of flesh and crystal and metal. Tendrils extended from it in every direction. This was the hive mind. The consciousness that controlled every Crithian in the fleet. The mind became aware of them. It reached out with psychic force. Maya felt it touch her thoughts. She felt it trying to understand. What was this creature that dared invade its sanctum? The mind probed deeper. It touched Maya memories. It saw Earth. The hive mind recoiled. Maya felt its shock, its horror. The mind showed her visions. It showed her what it saw in her memories. A world of endless violence. Evolution pushed to extremes, species that killed for sport, weather that murdered indiscriminately, humans who slaughtered each other by millions, and through it all, dragons and elves and other things that should not exist. The mind spoke in Maya's head. It said she was from a broken world, a world that shattered its children and reforged them as weapons. It said humans were broken things made sharp. Maya answered back with her own thoughts. She said the mind was right. Earth broke its children, but it also taught them to endure, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. She said humans were not broken, they were tempered, like steel in a forge. The mind tried to dominate her, to force her to stop. But Maya's will was iron. She had been trained since childhood to resist psychic intrusion. She pushed back against the mind assault. At the same time, she signaled Luna. Luna planted the explosives around the chamber. Magnetic charges with molecular disruptors, enough to vaporize the entire section. She set the timer for 2 minutes. She yelled that it was done. Maya and Ember fought their way back to the exit. Crithians swarmed from every direction. Claire ran out of ammunition. She drew a combat knife and fought hand to hand. Luna used her tools as weapons, anything to buy time. They reached the breach point. Amy had the shuttle waiting with engines hot. They dove through the hole and into the shuttle. Amy punched the throttle. The small craft shot away from the command carrier. Behind them, the explosives detonated. The blast tore through the ship. The hive mind died. Its death scream echoed across the psychic wavelength. Every Crithian in the fleet felt it. Without the mind to guide them, they fell into chaos. Ships collided. Warriors stopped fighting. The swarm fell apart. The coalition fleet pressed their advantage. They destroyed the confused enemy ships. The battle turned into a rout. Within an hour, the Crithian fleet was destroyed. The shuttle limped back to the celestial dawn. Ember was wounded. Burn marks covered the dragon scales. Claire had taken a claw slash across her arm. Luna had a broken rib. But they were alive. They had done the impossible. Captain Zekthar met them in the docking bay. He had no words. He simply saluted. The three women and the dragon had saved the fleet, saved the colonies, ended the battle before it truly began. News of the victory spread across the coalition like wildfire. The Battle of Vanguard Nebula would be remembered as a turning point in the war. The Crithian swarm had suffered its worst defeat in a decade, but the real story was how the battle was won. Word of the infiltration team spread, word of the Deathworld warrior and her dragon. Fleet Command ordered the Celestial Dawn to return to Coalition Central for debriefing and commendations. The journey took a week. During that time, Maya found herself at the center of attention she did not want. Crew members stopped her in corridors to thank her, to shake her hand, to ask questions about Earth and dragons and battles. Luna and Claire stayed close. The mission had forged a bond between them. They had faced death together and survived. That created a connection deeper than ordinary friendship. They became Maya protectors. When the attention got too much, they intervened and gave her space to breathe. Ember recovered from the wounds quickly. Dragons healed fast. Within days, the burns had faded to faint scars. The dragon spent time with the crew now. Let them approach. Let them touch the scaled hide. Some of the aliens were terrified. Others were fascinated. Children on the ship loved Ember. They brought treats and toys. Ember accepted them with patient dignity. Captain Zekthar submitted a recommendation that Maya receive the Coalition's Star of Valor, the highest military honor. He detailed her actions in both battles. He included testimony from multiple witnesses. He noted that without her intervention, the ship would have been destroyed and the battle lost. Coalition Central was a massive station that orbited a blue-white star. Hundreds of species called it home. The station had everything: government buildings, military headquarters, markets and parks and cultural centers. The Celestial Dawn docked at a military berth. Maya and the others were escorted to guest quarters to await the ceremony. The morning of the ceremony, Maya stood in her dress uniform. The dark fabric felt strange after so long in combat gear. Ember stood beside her. Someone had polished the dragon scales until they shone like rubies. Luna and Claire wore their dress uniforms too. Amy had been included in the honors for her piloting. They walked together to the grand hall. The enormous chamber could hold thousands. Today it was packed. Representatives from every coalition species filled the seats. Military officers in crisp uniforms, politicians in elaborate robes. Media drones hovering overhead recording everything. At the front of the hall stood a raised platform. Behind it hung the coalition banner, a circle of stars representing unity among diverse peoples. Maya and her team were guided to the platform. They stood at attention facing the crowd. A door opened, and the highest-ranking officials entered. Fleet Admiral Grace Carter led them. She was human. Tall and imposing, with gray hair and eyes like flint. She had served in coalition forces for 30 years. She was the first human to reach admiral rank. Behind her came council members representing a dozen species. Admiral Carter approached Maya first. The admiral studied her with an intensity that missed nothing. She told Maya she had read the reports. She said what Maya did was extraordinary. She said it was also exactly what she expected from someone who came from where Maya came from. Maya asked what the admiral meant. Carter smiled. She said she was from Earth, too. From the Pacific regions where humans built cities on the water. She said she had met elves before, had even seen a dragon once in the wild mountains. She said she knew what the old places of Earth produced. Warriors who carried the weight of 10,000 years of survival in their bones. The ceremony began. Admiral Carter read the commendations. She described the battles in detail. She spoke of courage under fire, initiative in the face of overwhelming odds, sacrifice for the greater good. She called Luna forward first, pinned the Star of Valor to her uniform, then Claire, then Amy. Each received a standing ovation. Finally, Maya, The Admiral called her forward. She spoke of Maya actions, how she held a corridor against impossible numbers, how she led the infiltration that saved the fleet, how she faced a hive mind and did not break. She said Maya exemplified everything the coalition stood for, different peoples working together, using their unique strengths for the common good. The Admiral pinned the star to Maya's chest. The metal was warm. It felt heavier than it should. The crowd erupted in applause. Maya stood stiff and uncomfortable. This was not what she wanted. She did not fight for medals. She fought because it was necessary. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Maya tried to slip away, but Admiral Carter stopped her. The Admiral said they needed to talk. She led Maya to a private room away from the crowd. Ember followed, of course. The dragon never left Maya's side for long. Carter poured 2 glasses of water and sat down. She told Maya to relax, to stop being so formal. Maya sat, but stayed tense. The Admiral laughed. She said Maya reminded her of herself 30 years ago, unable to accept praise, always looking for the next threat. Carter asked if Maya planned to stay with the Celestial Dawn. Maya said yes. The crew had become her family. The ship felt like home now. The Admiral nodded. She said that was good. But she wanted Maya to know there were other options. Earth was sending more volunteers. They needed experienced soldiers to train them, to help them adapt to galactic warfare. Maya said she appreciated the offer, but she belonged in the field. She was a warrior, not a teacher. Carter accepted this, but she made Maya promise something. She made her promise to share her stories, to help people understand what Earth was, what humans were. She said fear of the unknown bred prejudice, knowledge bred understanding. Maya agreed to try. The Admiral stood and offered her hand. They shook. Carter said she was proud to serve alongside someone like Maya. She said Earth children were proving themselves across the fleet, showing the galaxy that Deathworld origins did not mean savagery. They meant strength tempered by choice. The Celestial Dawn departed the next day, back to patrol duty in the Outer Rim, back to the war that ground on despite the victory. But something had changed. The crew no longer saw Maya as strange or frightening. They saw her as one of them, a valued member of their family. Luna convinced Maya to join the regular mess hall gatherings, to eat with others instead of alone. Maya found she enjoyed the company. She told stories about Earth when asked, not just about danger. She talked about beauty too, about forests at dawn, ocean sunsets, the feeling of wind through dragon wings. Claire started training with Maya, learning combat techniques that humans had perfected over millennia. Other crew members joined. Even the aliens wanted to learn. Maya was patient. She showed them how to move efficiently, how to read opponents, how to turn weakness into strength. Ember became the ship's unofficial mascot. The dragon had a designated space in the cargo bay that crew members filled with gifts, blankets and cushions, shiny objects that dragons seemed to like. Ember accepted the attention with grace. Sometimes the dragon would let children ride on its back, carefully, gently, never forgetting how fragile other beings were. Captain Zekthar called Maya to his office 3 months after the ceremony. He had received new orders. The Celestial Dawn was being assigned to a task force hunting Crithian remnants. The war was not over, but the tide had turned. Coalition forces were pushing the swarm back. They needed ships that could handle the most dangerous missions. He told Maya she could request reassignment if she wanted. This new posting would be even more dangerous. Constant combat, high casualties. No one would question her choice to take a safer assignment after what she had done. Maya did not hesitate. She said she would stay. This was her ship. This was her crew. Where they went, she went. Zekthar smiled. He said he expected nothing less. He said he was honored to have her aboard. The task force assembled. 12 ships, including the Celestial Dawn. They jumped into Crithian space and began their hunt. Over the following months, they fought dozens of battles. They destroyed enemy bases, rescued civilians, pushed deeper into swarm territory than any coalition force had gone before. Maya fought in every battle. She became a legend among the task force. The Thornwood Angel, they called her. The elf with eyes like a predator and a dragon at her side. Stories spread, some true, some exaggerated. She had killed 100 Crithians single-handed. She could move faster than light. Her blade could cut through starship armor. Maya laughed when she heard the stories. She told Luna that legends were never accurate. Luna said accuracy did not matter. What mattered was what the legend represented. Hope. Proof that the coalition could win. That even the most dangerous enemies could be defeated. Earth sent more volunteers as promised. They arrived in small groups. Standard humans from cities and farms, elves from ancient forests, dwarves from mountain holds. Each brought their own skills, their own perspectives. They all carried the same core trait. The ability to endure, to adapt, to survive. Maya met with the new arrivals when possible. She shared her experiences, warned them about the challenges they would face, told them that wearing an earth patch meant carrying expectations. People would watch them, judge them, fear them, or admire them, or both. She said they had to prove that Deathworld children could be more than warriors. They could be builders, healers, teachers, friends. The war continued. Months became years. The Crithian swarm was pushed back to their core worlds. Coalition forces stood at the edge of enemy space preparing for the final campaign. But that was a story for another time. On quiet nights, Maya sat with Ember in the observation deck. They watched the stars slide past in the darkness. She thought about home, about the forests she had left behind, about the family she had not seen in years. She wondered if she would ever return to Earth, if she wanted to return. Ember nuzzled against her. The dragon thoughts merged with hers. Home was not a place. Home was where you belonged, where you were valued, where you had purpose. The Celestial Dawn was home now. These people were family. This endless sky was where they were meant to be. Maya stroked Ember's scaled head. She whispered words in the old tongue, the language of her people from before humans touched the stars. She told Ember that Earth had taught them to survive, but the galaxy was teaching them something more important. It was teaching them to live, to connect with others, to build something greater than themselves. And perhaps that was the real lesson, the real reason Earth children were spreading across the stars. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to share what they had learned. That survival was not enough, that strength meant nothing without compassion, that the fiercest warriors could also be the gentlest friends. The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew toward tomorrow battles, toward uncertain futures, but also toward hope. Because if a Deathworld elf and her dragon could find family among the stars, then anything was possible. The galaxy was vast, the dangers were real, but so was the potential for connection, for growth, for becoming more than what you were born to be. Maya smiled and closed her eyes. Ember rumbled contentedly. Together, they rested. Two survivors from the most dangerous world in known space. Two friends who had chosen kindness, despite being forged in violence. Two souls who proved that where you came from mattered less than what you chose to become. And in the darkness between stars, their legend continued to grow.